Not yet, it's going. Okay, we are live.
And thank you for joining us tonight on a late edition of Latinos for Trump. My name's Stats Cisneros. I'm out here in Salt Lake City right now. So last night we had basically what turned into somewhat of a riot. As you can see behind me, the riot, which was originally started by, I think, an organization called Insurgents USA. Basically, they started out here protesting. I think it was a peaceful protest at first, but somebody brought some paint, and we have right here, it says blood on the wall, or blood on all your hands. Okay, so what we did, we had a man who was gunned down, and he was shot what could be, seen as an excessive amount of times. So what they did is they started breaking windows as well. You can go ahead and take a look at all the damage. You see that they washed off a lot of paint. You can see, we're going to go ahead and walk around the building, Jen. If you want, go ahead and play the video that we had queued up.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay,
and,
everyone. So if you're just tuning in, the governor declared the emergency after riots broke out yesterday.
Yeah, there was an official state of emergency declared, and they did declare it that it was a unlawful protest, or I think something to that effect. But if you can see right here, too much blood. And like I said, I mean, he was shot quite a few times. But
Dad, why was he shot?
I think if you pull up that video, it'll tell you the exact thing. I don't want to get it wrong, Jen.
Oh, okay.
But he did have a weapon, and he did reach for the weapon once he was shot again.
Okay,
so,
we're
walk closer, and police are letting us, saying that this is now a crime scene tonight. But I can kind of show you what we are seeing. What we showed you a little bit earlier. The leftover from this, you've got the sign with the red paint on it. As well as
how you doing, man?
But before all of this happened this evening, we were here as those people started to gather. The chants ring out just like they have before.
What's up?
But this time, the message comes with even more anger.
He should be ashamed that that's the decision he made.
Fresh from Singale's ruling for this group, justified is the exact opposite of justice.
In my eyes, all these people's eyes, those cops are murderers. It would have been one thing if they shot him 2-3 times and it happened that he passed away. Maybe they were scared, but 34 times, that's insane. And anybody who thinks that's justified is crazy.
As the protest grew in front of Gill's office, they marched down the street and painted the road red. Sin has blood on his hands, they wrote. This time, their message is abundantly clear. Gill's ruling isn't the end. They'll continue to fight.
He was my good friend, and I loved him, I know he knew that I would be here regardless, support his family, to support the whole movement for him, It's sad that it had to be him,
And then, of course, after that afternoon when everybody gathered, they kind of marched up around the block, back down and around here, resulting in some of what we have seen tonight. That was when they broke the windows or threw some things at the window. That was when police started to intervene. But again, everybody has left, and now we are peaceful just as we started here this afternoon. Live in Salt Lake City, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Yeah, Jen, so you can see there is an excessive amount of red paint everywhere, and I guess the gist of everything was that, the Salt Lake Police Department has blood on their hands. But I believe that there was a video circulating around, and the gentleman, after being shot, continued to reach for a pistol. And I believe one officer actually unloaded a full clip in his weapon, and then also popped another clip in there and emptied that one as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was just one officer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is,
of course, go ahead, Jen.
that is excessive of me, but it makes me wonder. I mean, I'm so skeptical about the news. I'm wondering what was he doing? What was he wearing? Some kind of protection that they had to shoot him 34 times? I think you said he wasn't going down or something.
Yeah. Sadly, I don't really know all of the details as to what transpired, that night whenever the gentleman was shot. I think his name was Bernard. But the people are very angry. And I think, with something like that, where you have a gentleman shot that many times, it can be questionable. And Jen, I had mentioned, to the audience before that I had spoken to the leader of BLM, Lex Scott. And I think that this Utah chapter of BLM functions autonomously from the national chapter. I don't get a Marxist feel from Lex Scott. And I don't think that she has any ulterior agendas. She seems like a very straightforward person. And I just don't pick that up from her. But one of her main, and excuse everybody, excuse us for, this expletive that I'm showing right here. But I mean, this is what's transpiring. This is on the doorstep to the district attorney's office. And, this is de-escalating, or this is escalating rather, into quite the civil unrest type situation. Earlier we passed by and we did see a large amount of armed officers standing guard outside, and they only recently went inside.
So tell us what happened today. I know that you said there was something that was happening today, but they called it off.
Yeah, there was an event planned by the same organization, Insurgents USA, and I actually spoke at their event in Provo. That was the event that I spoke at, and I think this is just a bunch of angry people who don't fully understand the situation. They just take what the news organizations show them and run with it. But as you can see,
did they shoot this man in the back? I'm trying to get some video so that we can play it for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Jen.
Here's one. I don't know what that does. Bear with us, guys. We're trying to get you some more footage in here. Are you still walking around the building showing all the graffiti?
Yeah. I'm just showing the damage that was done. But I just wanted to go ahead and show everybody, that things are quickly breaking down across the United States. Things like this generally did not happen in Salt Lake City, but it has made its way over here. And, we were part of that. You see the word pig. I didn't even notice that at the very beginning. But during the events last month, which did erupt into a full riot situation. We saw, basically what you would call a peaceful protest, and one event just turns the whole thing sideways. All of a sudden it becomes a mob mentality type situation. And
I know, and I hear you, and I want to just. We always have to question what are the characters behind, what's going on with these people that are getting hurt. And I just want to read something to you all that I found.
Mm-hmm.
According to court records, Palacios Carvajal was arrested on July 20th, putting a gun on a man and stealing another gun, which the man he was selling to Palacios after arranging to meet via Facebook. Palacios pleaded guilty last August to a count of robbery. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail, which he was serving as a So I'm wondering if this man did he pull a gun at officers?
That has to be the case, Jen, because I don't want to misspeak, but there was a weapon involved. That's my understanding, is that there was a weapon involved, and that he was shot initially for reaching for the weapon, and then dropped the weapon, and then tried to pick the weapon up again, and that's when he was shot. Do you remember the amount of times, Eric? 34 times. Okay. Yeah. So, it was an excessive amount of time that, of times that he was shot. But what we're doing as people, to try and rectify the situation is not going to get the reaction I think that they're looking for, Jen.
And I'm thinking
I'm sure you agree.
No, and I do agree. And it says here that the 2 police officers in Utah were cleared Thursday, and the death of an armed man. So he was armed.
Yes.
And they shot more than 30 times as he ran from police, a decision that prompted his grieving family to heighten their calls for systematic changes in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's an unfortunate situation, but with law enforcement, you can't hold these gentlemen at fault when there's a weapon involved. If in that situation, it's clearly a them or him situation. So, I was going into what Lex Scott said, and what her requests were as far as changes to how things are handled here. And I actually agree, that some of these, these cases that are, excessive and involve, law enforcement killings or, just shootings like this. I mean, they should be investigated by an outside party. I think that she does have a point there. And I think that's something that we can probably all agree on, or at least start at. What I wouldn't agree with is having, members from these organizations on these, these councils or committees or whatever. It's a decent idea, and I think it's a decent starting point at least. But with what's been transpiring here, specifically in Salt Lake City, it should be a wake-up call to the rest of the United States, because this kind of thing just didn't happen here up until this point. This is a new level for the city, and it's one of the reasons that I moved over here. So I just wanted to go ahead and touch base with everybody and let everybody know, why we didn't have LFT news tonight, but I felt that this was important enough to go to. So for everybody out there, Jen, unless you have anything else, I will update everybody if we do get any more information.
Do you think that some riots will break out tonight? I know these kinds of things start to get heated over days.
Well, apparently there was a stand down order from the organization that was organizing the event. So I feel that's a good thing, because we did have, and I probably should have mentioned this before, basically what would equate to a militia group called the UCA, Utah, what is it? Citizen Alarm, Utah Citizen Alarm, which basically at the Provo rally, this was a large amount of gentlemen armed with AR-15 rifles, handguns, etc. It's very likely with this kind of emotion going on that kind of situation could have turned into something really bad. So I'm pretty glad that the protest tonight was called off. I think everybody needs some cooling off time.
I agree. Absolutely agree. It said it happened about that 1:40. Was that on Saturday? Oh no, that's a different thing.
Excuse me?
I'm trying to figure out the day it happened, but I think it happened on Thursday. Did it happen yesterday?
Last night, yes. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you for hosting for me, and everybody out there. Try to keep tabs on this situation, because it's going to set a precedent. For the. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I said definitely. I'm worried it's going to turn into another George Floyd situation.
Yeah. All right, Jen, I'm going to go ahead and call it from here. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back with you again tomorrow for LFT News.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Okay, I'm ending broadcast now.